The Untouchable Porsche explained episode 4337 speed. Now, I seen this dude in my feed for the longest time, but I never watched him until y'all made me watch the NYC one. And after that one, bro, I respected his editing and his content, so I just been tapped with him and tapped in with him ever since.
It was during July and August when police encountered
he puts a lot of work into his videos.
List of car thefts and high-speed chases involving top-of-the-range cars. In all, more than $1.25 million worth of Jags, Hondas and Porsches were stolen.
A Type 964 Generation 911 Turbo goes missing in Los Angeles.
Bro, I don't mean to pause this early, but it's like,
Generation 911 Turbo.
Yo, from an editing perspective, this is crazy. 1, 2, 3, like, bro, this is time, bro, because it's also information as well. You can't have wrong information there too.
$10,000 in cash on the black market. An advertisement in the Sydney newspaper for a used Porsche appears. A shipping container leaves the port of Los Angeles headed for Sydney, and a customs agent in Sydney declares the container legitimate. And the parts are distributed throughout Australia's Porsche dealer network and even ending up in the Middle East for 10 times the original purchase price. And the cycle repeats.
That's crazy, bro. This could literally be the intro for a movie.
This was the lucrative method of operation for a clever 26-year-old mechanical engineering student dropout termed crime boss named Steven Spilliviera, who had an insatiable appetite for the unmistakable silhouette of Porsche's creme de la creme, the 911 Turbo. Since the launch of the Type 930 911 Turbo in 1974, the turbos have been the most intensely engineered, the most technologically marvelous, and also the most expensive 911s of the generations. And in the early 90s, the 911 Turbo was the most sought-after car in the depths of crime syndicates. At the forefront of providing these German-engineered machines to the Australian underworld and being uncatchable by police behind the wheel of a turbo was a young 16-year-old Australian kid given the nickname by police, the Porsche Kid.
Oh my.
This is
so this dude is the squeeze Benz of his time. Police hunt folk hero Porsche thief. Stepped up 16-year-old involved in 1.2. Bro, that's lore, bro.
Of how
that's
Porsche's flagship model became the Hellcat of its time. Not if it would be stolen, but when.
Hey, don't compare this shit to a Hellcat though. Nowhere near. This is class.
The year is 1986. Porsche as a company consisted of hardcore enthusiasts, techno-elitists, and wannabe race car drivers, all with the goal of creating a car that excelled at every discipline other than price point. The current 911 structurally was 2 decades old with minimal evolution and refresh, slowly becoming a relic of the past, but still loved by the masses. And a young Filipino artist working for Porsche by the name of Benjamin Dempson would put pen to paper and design the next generation of 911. One that would perfectly intermingle old world design, but with modern interpretation and electronics derived from the Group B959.
If I'm not mistaken, he might be the same person who designed the 918. I don't know if he still works for them, but I think that's what his name is.
Air-cooled flat 6 configuration, but now with a larger 3.6-liter displacement by the moniker M64. The compression ratio was a stout 11-to-1, and a forged and balanced crankshaft gave the M64.
So you telling me 247 is all you needed to be considered the Hellcat at that time?
For excellent power production for a naturally aspirated
so,
engine, only being 10 horsepower less
come out the factory,
than the early
800,
Type 930 Turbo 3.0 models, but without the deadly turbo lag synonymous with those Widowmaker models.
Acceleration. The 911 Carrera 4 is quicker than any production Porsche we've ever driven. Our test car covered a quarter mile in 13.3 seconds with a final speed of 104 miles per hour.
The modernization stretched further than just
People
the
were
engine.
geeking over
Lessons
13
learned on the
seconds?
ethereal Porsche 959's PSK all-wheel drive system were trickled down to the 964. This new full-time all-wheel drive system employed 3 differentials plus an electronically controlled hydraulic clutch that sent 31% of the torque to the front axle and 69% to the rear.
A 0 to 60 time of 4.5 seconds puts the Carrera 4 ahead of many American V8 performance cars.
That thing must have been bulletproof. How you have 3 dips for 247 horsepower?
Brisk acceleration to 100 kilometers an hour, exceptional handling in all conditions, and overbuilt for the 310 newton meters of torque the M64 could produce. The front suspension was now McPherson struts versus torsion arms of the classic models. The bumpers and fog lamps were integrated for better aerodynamics combined with the electronic rear spoiler, and the much anticipated wide-body turbo model used the rear-wheel drive configuration of the Carrera 2, but with the older, proven power plant of the Type 930, the 3.3-liter single turbocharged M30 engine, but with a larger intercooler and more power as a result.
But the 911 Turbo can still pin you to your seat. Don't blink or you'll miss the 0 to 60 run. It's over in 4.8
4.8 is respectable though for that time. That's not that bad.
13.1
but
seconds
a quarter mile
with a
still
final
rough.
speed of 109 miles per hour.
The silhouette was instantly recognizable, but the performance was that of the modern age, and as a result, the rich and wealthy just had to have them. But in a small, affluent community 40 miles outside of Los Angeles, California, Newport Beach, which was densely populated with Porsche 911s, they were slowly going missing, and police were essentially dumbfounded. They weren't stolen from home garages or dealership showrooms, but rather in parking lots in the Fashion District in broad daylight. And an engineering student dropout with mechanical chops by the name of Steven Spiliviero was at the center of the racket.
That's what I like to see. Nigga became an engineer, went to drop out, went to thief. I love it. Nigga living life like a movie.
Furniture removal truck purchased for $10,000 US with the writing Prestige Car Transport in big letters down the side was the last thing a Porsche 964 would see before being ramped into its sound-deadened box. And within hours, it would be dismantled into pieces stretching across a warehouse floor and then into a shipping cargo container with a destination, Sydney, Australia. Simultaneously, newspaper ads of Porsche 911 parts and whole examples at drastic discounts would show up in Sydney newspapers, and even grabbing the attention of Porsche Cars Australia, who put notices in the newspaper of shady gray market imports. According to Spiliviero, so many 911
Yo, that's
parts
so funny. People didn't have no messenger, no social media, so to sell stolen parts, they just had to push it on the newspaper.
The right-hand converted models flooded the Australian market.
Nah, that's crazy.
The prices overall dropped by over 40% in the used market. It was such a huge issue that Porsche as a company refused to sell private party individuals the parts required to carry out the steering conversion for Australian compliance. Container after container would arrive at Australian ports. Once the import duty was paid, there wasn't any probe into the legitimacy of parts, or the car as a whole, and they were distributed across Australia's Porsche workshops and even to the Middle East. Missing Porsches weren't just happening in the United States. In Australia, they were highly sought after by turbo kids. These were youth with the knack for car theft, who regularly stole high-performance turbocharged RX-7s, Nissan Pulsars, BMWs, and their specialty was the Turbo 911s. One 16-year-old kid in particular was engulfed in folklore, taking $1.2 million worth of Porsches and luxury cars on high-speed chases and making a name for himself as being literally uncatchable, and Sydney police knew him as simply the...
I be talking about some of the new niggas who be swimming now have so much lore, bro. This dude not only did what y'all did, ran from the ops, but he was wanted on the newspaper talking about some 1.2 million in theft. Woo!
Brett Lindsay
Squeeze got some comp, bro.
Made a career of taking 911s, both 964s and classic models from their respective owners, and taunting the police doing 200 kilometers an hour through neighborhoods.
Now that shit was butter. Hold on.
And taunting the police doing 200 kilometers an hour through neighborhoods. On an early Sunday morning in Drummoyne, a suburb in the inner west of Sydney, the infamous Porsche kid and his friends would grab a Porsche 959 from an exotic dealership. The 959 was unlike any Porsche turbo that came before it. The sequential twin-turbo 2.8-liter flat six was derived from Porsche's racing efforts with the 956 and 962 programs to curtail the laggy nature of 80s turbo technology. The PSK all-wheel drive system was more at home and samey nature of 80s.
Smaller turbo on the left side is used for low RPM acceleration, and large turbo on the right side is used for high
80s turbo technology. The PSK all-wheel drive system was more at home in sanctioned Group B rallying than roads used to commute to work. And with a price tag of 350,000 Australian dollars, it was the holiest of holies in regards to street legal Porsches. And a 16-year-old kid was now behind the wheel. By the time the police responded to the break-in, the Porsche kid was gone with the Group B homologation special.
By the time Brett Lindsay Capper turned 18, he'd already notched up an extensive criminal record. And just after his 18th birthday, Capper embarked on a car theft spree, stealing 5 cars.
It was during July and August when police encountered a seemingly endless list of
So he was on the run for like 2 years.
Involving top-of-the-range cars. In all, more than $1.25 million worth of Jags, Hondas and Porsches were stolen.
New South Wales police, in the wake of the missing Porsches, would form a special task force, codenamed Operation Cabriolet, and it would unravel a scheme stretching from the United States, the Middle East, Europe, and Australia. Millions of dollars worth of Porsche parts and whole examples, old and new, were linked to Spaliviero's warehouse operations in Newport Beach after his business associate ratted him out, subsequently having him raided by Newport Beach police and arrested, and not surprising, while behind the wheel of a 911 reconstructed with stolen parts. The Porsche kid would create an even longer rap sheet of crimes, from stealing Ferraris and Commodores to armed robberies, ultimately leading to spending the rest of his days in and out of prison. The 911 had an image akin to the WRX and Lancer Evolution and even the Cosworth Ford Escorts. It was a thief magnet with an exorbitant price tag that, with a recession overhead and newly introduced luxury tax for 1990, it wasn't worth the hassle of wondering if it would still be there after a night on the town.
Damn, that's crazy.
Porsche Cars of Australia saw their sales decline drastically from 600 plus cars sold per year in the mid-80s to only 101 cars sold in 1991, which folded the Hamilton family ownership of the prestige dealer since 1951 back to direct German Porsche AG ownership from Stuttgart. While Porsche blamed the economy and wanting to directly serve the needs of its customers better, the flood of bargain 911s with questionable history being advertised boldly in newspapers and headlines of ram raids involving 911s didn't help their bottom line. The economic downturn didn't just affect dealers, but the 964 range of 911s themselves. A proposed 969 model, which would have been the 964's take on the legendary Group B 959, but with an IndyCar-derived V8 engine, was proposed, and even a test mule built with an Audi V8 in the rear.
Yeah, but even though that prototype was proposed, what safety mechanisms would they update to ensure the customers wouldn't get scammed?
The pricing wouldn't favor sales, and all the prototypes but one was crushed, and the 969 was replaced in favor for the 3.6-liter turbo, famously used in the Bad Boys movie, sitting on those 3-piece Speedline forged wheels. The short lifespan of the 964 was embroiled in headlines, many positive and some negative, but it marked a key turning point for Porsche as a whole, embracing subtle change and modernity, but keeping the overall essence of the 911 still intact. At a point in time, the 964 was the bargain 911. In the late 2000s, the Carrera 4s could be purchased for as little as $15,000 US in decent condition.
Let me see what they're going for right now. Let me see. I might have to invest in one. Bro, what? They are not worth that no more. The price is skyrocketed for these old Porsches. Honestly, this is some dope shit to have in the garage, though. That'd be hard. But back to the vid, bro. Back to the vid.
That would quickly change as designers would eloquently and sometimes not so eloquently modify 964s into pieces of rolling art.
Mr. Wide Body
Senior
King
vehicle
himself
design would take these not so desirable 964s and redesign them in carbon fiber, pitting Cosworth tuned engines in the rear and updating the interior and cosmetics, and a price tag north of $500,000. Akira Nakai and his company RWB would create a cult-like following as he took hand tools and aggressively widened and stanced 964s with body kits and aero, using a less precise but still impressive method of operation to transform the 911 silhouette. In today's market, the 964 is just as desirable as any other generation, with 7-figure examples selling on Bring a Trailer. Nonetheless, the 964 over the course of 5 years has made such an impact in both the mainstream popular culture and the criminal underworld, it's everything you'd expect from every 911 that came before and after it.
That's crazy, bro. People like, With new tech and all these things too, it's like, I think stories like this are going to be a thing in the past, bro. Like the way just the car com is going in general, bro. Before you had cars like this, bro, just coming out the factory 200, 300 horsepower. And now you have cars coming out the factory 900 to 1,000 horsepower. So honestly, I don't think the horsepower numbers are going to go up. I just think driving will become a thing of the past, bro. For safety purposes. And now, especially with the electric cars, like how they come from the factory with no steering wheel. Like the whole incentive is to not let you drive. So we got to appreciate all these stories. But 337 speed, you did your thing, my boy. You did your thing.